The United Mine Workers Federation and employers have agreed to a new award package. This includes wage increases in November 1990 and May 1991, an additional employer contribution to superannuation, a recommitment to the award restructuring process, and negotiated benefits from improved productivity. At this stage, the productivity contribution remains unknown, but the other entitlements will boost weekly pay packets by around $35 by mid-1992. Employers and the union have agreed to refer disputes at mine site level to a small committee of union and employer representatives, with the process to be reviewed next April. But the conciliatory mood has not spread to the metal industries. Metal unions will recommend a campaign of industrial action when 5,000 workers meet at Hunter Valley area meetings tomorrow and Thursday. The union's stance stems from a breakdown in wage negotiations with employers. Metal workers will be urged to endorse a 24-hour strike and industrial action at the workshop level. Leslie Robinson, NBN News.
"18-year-old gunner Jason Cameron was on night artillery manoeuvres with the Brisbane-based 1st Field Regiment when he was run over by a truck sometime on Sunday evening. He was taken by Army ambulance to Singleton Hospital, where he died shortly after midnight. However, doctors at the hospital believed that poor initial first aid gave them no chance to save the young man. Dr Barry Thomas is chairman of the Singleton Medical Staff Council.
There was an hour, the golden hour of treatment for seriously injured patients where, with resuscitation, the difference between life and death is made. And one wonders whether this delay may have contributed to the fatality.
Gunner Cameron arrived at Singleton Hospital at about 11 p.m, and doctors estimate the accident happened at least an hour before that. While they're disturbed by the time lag, they're even more dismayed by the kind of treatment he received during that interval.
The basic resuscitation treatment was quite adequate as far as cardiopulmonary resuscitation. However, one is surprised when a patient who has been run over by a large vehicle arrives with abdominal injuries without a drip even. This really seems to me to be not very adequate.
Apart from the absence of any sign of a fluid drip when the patient arrived, doctors were equally curious as to why a masked suit hadn't been used. The suit basically squeezes fluid up from the lower body into vital organs.
It buys you time and it is life-saving.
And again, this was absent?
Yes, it wasn't applied. Now, don't they have mask suits on the Army camp? We certainly have them in Singleton.
It's standard equipment among Singleton's fleet of civilian ambulances, along with other life-saving equipment, but no ambulances were required. The Westpac NBN rescue helicopter was called shortly after midnight, but by the time it had made the 17-minute flight, it was too late for Gunner Cameron. Singleton Infantry Centre Commandant Colonel Peter Cosgrove says the incident is the subject of an Army inquiry and will later be investigated by a military court as well as a civilian coronial inquest. While he couldn't comment on details, he said the Army was committed to a high standard of care for its soldiers.
It's always Army policy to use the most expedient means of evacuation and treatment for any patient, whether or not that should be military or civilian.
But as a general rule, you would go to your own people first?
Yes, certainly in the case of minor casualties, but when a serious casualty occurs, all involved will take whatever means necessary to move the casualty to sophisticated medical treatment without delay.
But on Sunday night, it appears there was a delay. It's not the first time civilian medics have questioned Army responses to emergencies. In February last year, a grenade explosion wounded 11 soldiers. Civilian ambulances were called, eventually. An inquiry then recommended that field communications between Army ambulances and the regimental aid post be reviewed as a matter of urgency. This inquiry will no doubt be asking if that advice was followed. Tom Hilston, NBN News.
If anything, the tragedy of December 28th brought together the people of Newcastle, the Hunter and indeed Australia in a generous display of support for the needy. Spontaneous donations, like those from the Earthquake Appeal concert, raised a total of $7.8 million. Nearly 10 months later, $600,000 of interest has raised the appeal to $8.5 million. $3 million has been paid out to Novocastrians, but what's happening to the rest of the funds?
The funds are being expended with claims of about 30 coming in a week, and the money going out, when you consider that 3 million of it's gone in 10 months, the 5 million won't last much longer.
Lord Mayor McNaughton says the appeal is third in line to other financial aids and it simply takes time to process the claims.
We are the last resort. People go to their insurance companies first, then to Family and Community Services, then to any other agency that might be relevant, and then to us.
Meanwhile, Newcastle University is to lose its earthquake monitoring equipment. A seismograph rushed here to pinpoint the epicentre of the quake has been recalled to Canberra. A university spokesman said the seismograph was also used to check for any aftershocks. The university is looking for a replacement, which could cost anything between $20,000 and $60,000.
About 50 people gathered in City Hall last night to float ideas for the quake's first anniversary. The meeting was chaired by Lord Mayor McNaughton and Brian Eastoe, the man in charge of Council's Renewals Unit. The December 28 quake rocked Newcastle and surrounding districts and killed 13 people. Many are still dislocated from their homes and businesses, prompting speakers last night to call for a sensitive program of remembrance.
I thought something at the actual time of the earthquake in Civic Park with the Lord Mayor presiding would probably be the best and in accord with what people really are feeling about it.
As a community, come to the cathedral and make it an opportunity of commemoration and also with a forward look to renewing our lives and giving thanks that we still have our lives, most of us, to get on with.
The word, I think, is subdued. There are a lot of people still in great difficulties. There will be a lot of people mourning, lost friends and relatives, injured people and their families, the people who've not been able to get their buildings put back together again and the hassles they're having at the present time. I think anything that takes place would be subdued.
I believe that the commemoration on the 28th of December is a different thing for every individual. So I'm suggesting that at 28 minutes past 10 on the 28th that we have 2 minutes silence throughout the city, and I'm sure that each person can then mark the occasion in their own personal way.
Our main purpose is to bring out into the open that the earthquake did happen, because the psychological feelings of people who are still affected by the earthquake, we're trying to bring that out now so they don't withdraw and have fear of it. So it's very important, I believe, that we do have positive activities that will generate that sort of openness for everyone.
I think the monument people want is a renewed Newcastle.
Two local drivers who have been steering an opposite lock around the Tomago track for more than 20 years each are Bob Brewer and Don McEwen. Former New South Wales champ Brewer is back on the track and hungry for a win after being plagued by engine troubles last season. He'll be driving a Power Pack Camaro, which is only part of his winning formula.
I always put it in like 40% the car. You've got to have a good car, so it's 40% for that. 40% for the pit crew. They're really the heart behind the car. Like, without them, I'm no good. I'm only sort of the nut behind the wheel, you know.
Don McEwen is back in the driver's seat after a layoff of 4 years. He's been building and perfecting his IROC Camaro with a 600 horsepower Chev engine and is keen to show off his handiwork as builder and driver.
So I'm very confident with this new design I've got with this car to be able to perform well in the ISP series, the Master series that's coming up.
The pair are no spring chickens, but they're still enjoying their days of thunder. Bob says experience gives him a competitive edge.
You know, you don't win the race in the first corner. You sort of, you might have to follow them for a while and put a little bit of pressure on them, and they get a bit nervy and hopefully give you the break to get past. But sometimes they don't.
The super sedans are crowd pleasers, resembling on the outside at least the lines of production cars. Newcastle's Pine Brothers will also be top contenders in the 5-round series. Each round has a $2,000 prize with an overall point score winner at the end of the series. But both Bob and Don have their sights set on the title.
I'll win.
So I'd like to win it. I hope the other guys are going to be happy with second and third and fourth, because I've just got that feeling that I could pull this one off.
Most of Australia's worst road accidents occur in country areas such as Kempsey or Grafton, precious hours away from a trauma treatment facility like Royal Newcastle Hospital. Those doctors called in to treat the victims are often general practitioners with little, if any, experience in severe trauma. To counter that problem, the Royal Australasian College of Surgeons has a group of instructors travelling around Australia, teaching country doctors how to assess and treat seriously injured patients. For the next 2 days, 16 of the region's doctors will learn how to deal with severe trauma, particularly in the golden hour after the accident.
So 100 patients that die after a motor vehicle accident or any serious injury, probably 50 of them will die more or less immediately, within seconds to minutes. You can't do anything from them. But another third will actually die within 1 to 2 hours. And we feel it's that group that we can influence favourably by teaching doctors better methods of assessing and managing their injuries.
The most common cause of death in this period is a blocked airway. The doctors are shown on a mannequin how to clear the passage and how to intravenously administer fluid. They are also taught how to treat severe bleeding through use of a mask suit. Although all these doctors are acquainted with the theory side, most never get hands-on experience until faced with the real thing, and often that's too late.
We're hoping that this course will make them better equipped, and I think if they learn not to panic, just to go through the protocol that we're teaching them in this course, ABC, airway, breathing, circulation, simple but sophisticated first aid, then we hope that their ability to cope with these accidents will be much enhanced.
Conditions were perfect as the beauty of Merriweather Beach provided a picture postcard backdrop for the cyclists as they left Newcastle bound for the entrance 77 kilometres away. A little freewheeling came in handy as they cycled down the highway past Charlestown and then past the Belmont Golf Club, where the course was playing pretty easily. This year's race will be remembered for the number of attacks by riders, and it was on again today. Firstly, a bunch of 6 attempted to steal a march on their opponents, but the bunch hauled them in quickly. Galushko was never too far from the lead, and with his teammates riding superbly as a group, his yellow jersey was not threatened. Plenty of riders tried lone breaks, but they were hauled in very quickly. The sign said danger ahead for the field, but for some it wasn't a problem, and one jovial gentleman snapped a couple for the family album. With the first finish of the day in the entrance, it was Englishman John Hughes who stole the show to take the 11th stage. From there, the entourage was transferred to Manly, and a 36-lap criterium of a 1 kilometre course closed the day. Spectators cheered on the wheeling warriors, and the pace was right on from the start. Winding through the streets and malls of Manly, sprinting was the go, and team riding again played a part. Galushko wasn't far from the leaders, as West German Alex Dorper broke away with a lap remaining, and he was never headed to win the criterium. Overall, Galushko retained the yellow jersey with a 53-second lead over England's Dave Spencer. Tomorrow is the final day of the 1990 tour. "50 competitors lined up for the New South Wales qualifying event for Mistral 1 sailboards. The Mistral is considered the Formula 1 of sailboards, and Lisaro's Chris Lawrence is the current world champion in this division. Tonight, Belmont Bay will be announced as the venue for the 1993 World Titles, and today it was 3 heats of the New South Wales qualifying event, with the top 3 finishers in each division going on to the national titles to be held in Sydney during December. After the first 2 races today held in tough conditions, many will be wondering if it's a good idea to back up for the remaining 4 heats tomorrow. Brendan Todd led the series after 2 heats, followed by Belmont's Andrew Regan and Simeon Glasson. Guest competitor Tom Mental from South Australia was a class above the other lightweights, and he scorched over the course to win from Greg Cotton and Mark Jordan. Natasha Sturgis leads the ladies from her nearest rival, Sharon Richardson. On Newcastle Harbour, 20 16-foot skiffs battled out the Halmac Services Handicap, again in tough conditions. Some competitors had gear trouble and there were retirements during the race. Port Hunter sailor Aaron Gore piloted Our Town Newcastle Permanent across the line in first place, and he was followed by Dick Hadley skippering GEC Osram. In third placing was Belmont Club's Craig Cork aboard Kennard's Hire. A unique combination, the frantic pace of greyhounds and the sandshoe shuffle of the Surf Club's Dry Boat Derby. A record crowd of 1,700 people turned out at the Gosford track to see who would win the $7,000 rubber ducky and to take in the running of the Sponsors Cup final. Shelley Beach set the mood of the evening and easily won the Glamour Stakes in the March past. The night was to be full of high drama, and the Yamina Surf Club came to grief in Heat 1. Ocean Beach the winners and through to the final. Then real drama for the organisers as a car slammed into a power pole outside the course and the whole suburb was plunged into darkness for 20 minutes. Cars gave some illumination for the jovial crowd who didn't seem to mind at all. Lights on and action time, with race 1 of the 10-event program finally underway 25 minutes late. Back to the fun part of the program, and North entrants were firm favourites for Heat 2, but the Gremlins struck again.
I got a bit tired in the legs, mate, and a bit hard running that last extra 100 metres.
How hard is it to run that 300?
Oh, it's all right when you're jogging at the start, but when you've got to try and sprint when they're coming up on you, it's pretty hard.
It was a night to forget for North entrants, unceremoniously falling out of their boat for a second time. Crews were feeling the strain of running 300 metres, carrying a minimum of 70 kilograms of plywood, piping, lead weights and flags, and in Heat 3 it was all Mad Max. Protests were fired in from everywhere and Heat 3 was run again, with McMaster's proving it was no fluke and Avoca bailing out. Heat 4 was a cakewalk for Copacabana. Many people were attending their first greyhound meeting and like what they saw.
It's the first time I've ever been.
What do you think? Would you come back again?
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. It is.
And you backed a winner or two?
No, I thought I did. I got all excited, but I had a trifecta, but it wasn't in the right order.
With the final of the boat race an hour away, attention was drawn to more serious matters, such as the running of the 1990 Sponsors Cup. Punters were keen on Jessica Bale, Kathy and Dark Vale, with the remaining greyhounds in double figures. 2KY's Rod Fuller called the action. Einstein Miss, an absolute bolter at 50 to 1, got the judges' nod and paid a handsome $57 and $5.10 for the place. Jessica Bale was second at 10 to 9 and paid $1.30, while Vedante Ladd at 16s was third and paid $2.20. A super performance by Einstein Miss, and you couldn't wipe the smiles from the bookies' faces. You could have had a wager on the boat race final, I'm sure, except it was even money the field. 300 metres away, a brand new rubber ducky for the successful club. Soldiers beached the champions, and the crew of Craig Andrews, Jason Smith, Andrew Smith and Steve Callaghan were happy little lifesavers.
Well, that was the longest 50 yards I think I've ever done. Anyway, I think it was gasping. But we didn't know what to expect. Like, so we only got our boat together yesterday morning, so I think. So glad it's finished anyway, and we needed a boat because we get the second all year in the IRB races.
Well, it's, I suppose, a very, very proud moment for you, all that you've won a boat for your club.
Yeah, that's right. It was hard enough to get sponsors and raise money at, and it was just to save us a bit of money this year anyway. So.
Just like their Formula One counterparts, the traditional champagne shake-up, although the Bollinger was replaced by Tui's Red. Greyhound Identity Kevin Johns donated a dog for the promotion and ran in conjunction with the Central Coast Express a competition to name the greyhound. Mrs Joyce Griggs of Springfield named the pup Cumberland Girl and can look forward to hours of pleasure. With $98,000 held on the tote and the record crowd, a tired but relieved Secretary Paul Greentree could still manage an enthusiastic smile.